Greetings and salutations. Vadoma here for another weekly installment of my vlog. I've decided I want to do these about once a week, ideally, just to keep the flow of ideas coming, talk about what's on my mind. As I've mentioned before, I'll be talking about a variety of issues, such as what it means to be a trans guy, my spirituality, BDSM and kink, and anything else that kind of touches my fancy. What I'm going to be talking about today, though, is something I was interested in talking about before I moved too far into my transition itself, which is how the process of my transition has been going. I've actually been on testosterone for nearing 5 months' time right about now. I know that a lot of people's videos that you see on YouTube show a progression from their transition physically from point to point, say every week, every couple weeks. I decided not to do a video until this point because I was feeling very protective of my transition. I think that when anyone decides to undertake a transition, it's never a sure thing. You may have body dysphoria, you may feel that your outsides don't match your insides or your self-perception, or you don't like the way that you're seen in the world, but it's really one of those sorts of things where you don't know if the transition is really going to be right for you until you start it, until you take the initial steps and see where the hormones take you. I was very much in that place, and I wanted to really honor the time I needed to feel comfortable with the transition and the changes that were occurring before I started sharing them with people. So I may be doing 2 videos on this depending on how much material I get covered here, but so it'll be 1 or 2 from this point forward. I think some of the first changes that I really started to see were my voice and my cock as well. In terms of the voice, I would say within the first couple of weeks, the vocal cords started lengthening, and I could see a significant drop in my voice. I could tell there was a change because I started getting some sore throats, and my voice, when I would start pitching it higher where my natural range was, it would start cracking. Now, the interesting thing to remember about voices for people who are born female-bodied or gendered female at birth is that there's also a resonance quality that is involved too. Now, resonance is your ability to be heard clearly, your articulation, because your sound bounces off of hard surfaces. In the case of females, it's everywhere in your head. You pitch your voice, or you send your voice up to your head. You send the air in the voice there. And so it bounces off the hard surfaces like the jaw, the hard palate, sinuses, that sort of thing. And that is how the sound resonates. Now, for people who are gendered male at birth or born male-bodied, the resonance is in the chest cavity and in all the rib cage there. So what I've had to actively do as my voice is lowering is to actually focus on sending the voice into the chest cavity instead, so it's a little better supported and I can articulate and be understood as well. So that's been an interesting activity. My wife, too, Atypical Ash here on YouTube, she also has her own videos about her transition from male to female. She's done a lot of musical theater, so she's actually going to be teaching me singing in my male range and work with my voice a little bit more, so I'm very, very excited about that. Another thing that I mentioned that was a fairly early change was my cock. Really, my clit started out as a clit, but I call it my little cock now. It actually started growing, increasing in length pretty rapidly. I'd say within the first month, it was significantly larger, and you have to understand, I started out with the world's smallest clit. It was microscopic. You practically needed to have a microscope and a tweezers in order to find it. At this point, it's actually, I'd say, outside of the body, probably about 1 inch long now. It's very sensitive, so all I have to do to play with it really is pull back on the foreskin of it to really get at it and massage it. I play with it like you would, you know, a cock of a guy who was born biologically male at birth. And so it's really that back and forth sort of friction and the squeezing that I found with a little lube is actually really, really pleasant. And I've had some pretty awesome orgasms that way as well. So hopefully the cock is going to continue to grow. I'd love for it to get up to something like 3 inches on the outside. I know that's kind of a rare thing, but here's hoping. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. Some additional changes include body hair. I feel that I've been very lucky in terms of my Eastern European heritage because we have a tendency to be pretty furry to begin with, but the hair has been sprouting fairly quickly. I haven't had a lot of arm hair, but I'm finding I'm getting more arm hair closer to the wrists and also on the palm, or not the palms, the back of the hand and the knuckles. My leg hair is actually a lot thicker, and I've developed a lot more hair on my thighs, and on my inner thighs especially. So really getting quite furry there. I've developed hair on my toes as well. It's never been there before. One thing that's been interesting that's been kind of unexpected is developing a thicker hair pattern on my abdomen right away. I'm developing a bit of a treasure trail. I actually have a scar on my stomach, about a 6-inch scar from a previous surgery, which is probably right down the middle of my stomach, but a treasure trail is being developed on either side, which I'm finding really exciting. I haven't developed any sort of chest hair yet. Nipple hair has gotten a lot longer, but the chest in general hasn't developed a lot of patterning of hair yet. And I haven't developed hair on my back. Fortunately, I'm not wanting to. The most exciting thing I'd say is the facial hair is actually developing pretty rapidly. The mustache area especially gets very thick and very dark, and I'm developing a smattering of hair on my chin. So it's turning out to be a rather solid goatee. Hopefully, at a year's time, I could actually have a goatee, and the rest of the face is starting to fill in. The peach fuzz is getting a bit thicker as well. Eyebrow hair is a bit thicker, and I'm getting a unibrow, so I have to pluck that, do a little manscaping there. In terms of the hair on my head, it hasn't gotten thicker, but when I was presenting as female, I generally kept my head shaved, but now I'm feeling like I can grow this out a little bit more and maybe also into a hairstyle because I'm feeling and looking a lot more masculine as well, which I think is what I was subconsciously going for when I was presenting as female and why I kept my hair short as well. It was very much a presentation thing for me. My body fat has been altering as well. Your body fat pattern changes when you get on testosterone, and I've been leaning out a lot, having a lot less fat in the area of the hips and thighs. It's gone a little bit to my stomach, but not too much at all. And so my butt itself is smaller, and the hips are seeming a lot more compact. Obviously, my bone structure is not going to change, so I still have wider hips structure overall, and I've got the imperfect bipedalism going. That's kind of interesting to think about. When you're born female-bodied, you have the wider hips, and then your legs are placed a little bit further in, so that when you walk, you have that rocking motion with your hips. That's been something I have been actually focusing on not having occur as well. Uh, and I feel that maybe with that fat pattern being distributed differently, it's kind of encouraged me to have my gait a little more straightforward, walking just straight instead of with that side-to-side motion. So that's been a little bit exciting as well. Aside from body fat, the muscles on my body have started developing a little bit more. I've always had a pretty lean upper body, but my arm muscles and my forearm muscles, as well as my back muscles and my pecs, have actually been increasing in strength a lot more. And I feel like my quads and my hamstrings and my legs are actually a lot stronger as well. So we'll see how this continues to develop. I'm actually going to begin exercising and doing some weight training again, so hopefully that will speed up the process. So at this point with talking about muscle, I'm going to stop this video, and I'll start the second one as another installment. Hang on just a moment, and I'll see you soon.